And we're back, and we just finished watching 2019's The Lighthouse, written by Robert Eggers and his brother Max Eggers, and directed by Robert Eggers, who this is his second film after the also wonderfully visually stunning The Witch from earlier. In the IMDb page, it says, 2 lighthouse keepers try to maintain their sanity while living on a remote and mysterious New England island in the 1890s. I thought this was like early 20s, 30s. I thought it was in the early 1900s for some bizarre reason. I didn't peg it for 1890s, but I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, it's hard to pinpoint like anything because you're just dealing with 2 guys wearing basically the same outfit.
Right, and it's very ambiguous, and I think that was the whole point of it, right?
I don't know if there's supposed to be any ambiguity as far as that goes. I mean, it clearly was like from a time before our own.
Yes, for sure.
There wasn't any phones.
No radios.
They're on this like
remote
rock in the middle of nowhere, and from the get-go, it's just bleak.
Yes, that's a great word for this. Actually,
when they head to the island, you just hear that foghorn, which is like the worst sounding foghorn ever. And they get to the island, and the boat just like you see the boat going away, and then it just vanishes.
Yeah,
like you don't even see it go over a horizon; it just disappears. It's a mist.
The fog. Yeah.
So these guys are just trapped there, and I gotta be honest. What did I watch? what was I? What was that?
I'm so super confused, but I enjoyed the movie.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think I completely understand what the hell happened, but I was entertained throughout.
Yeah.
And
it's not a short movie. It's 1 hour and 49 minutes.
Yeah, it's not a short movie, but you definitely, like I said, you're entertained.
And some of it was funny. We both laughed in several parts.
Some of it was funny. There were little funny bits.
There's some cringy things.
William Dafoe character seems to have no problem breaking wind whenever he can. William Dafoe is great in this.
They both are.
They both are, but William Dafoe
something about William Dafoe's performance is just amazing.
Scruffy sea captain who's just, I mean...
Aye, sir.
He even gets like sort of called out on it by Tom /
Rob
Pattinson, who's actually like, you're like a character. You got your sea language and your whatever. But yeah, William Dafoe, he's got like the big bushy beard,
the
nasty
beard is magnificent.
Teeth, and I always love William Dafoe's voice.
Yes,
he's got that gravelly.
Yeah, he's perfect for this. But no disregard of Rob Pattinson, who brought his A game.
Rob Pattinson was great in this too.
He went full bananas.
Yeah,
bananas.
This movie is about people just. I mean, I don't even know if I could say they're slowly losing their mind because they seem to be going off the deep end pretty quickly.
Yeah. Well, up until the scene where, and I feel like we can spoil this. This is from 2019. I feel like up until the scene where where Rob Pattinson's character is supposed to leave the island. I mean, he had his friction with Willem Dafoe, but there was like a cordiality, an understanding.
I don't know if it was a cordiality. I think there was a discipline there. And I think the discipline,
not cordial in the sense of whatever, but I think Rob Pattinson's character understood the hierarchy. I have to listen to Willem Dafoe. He's my boss, in essence. And I mean, I think I turned to you at one point and I was like, he's doing all the work on this island. What the hell is Willem Dafoe up to?
He's maintaining the light.
And apparently cooking awful dinners. But it just seemed like Rob Pattinson's was like the pack mule here. He had the biggest burden to bear.
He had the clean. He had to shovel the coal
to keep everything going.
Yeah, he had to maintain the water supply, which was just disgusting.
And the chamber pots.
He had to empty the chamber pots. Yeah,
and almost like a groundskeeper as well, right?
Yeah, he had to replace shingles. He had to do everything.
Yeah.
And William Dafoe, meanwhile, he cooked. and basically told him he did a shitty job, and also went up to the very tip top of the lighthouse, which was always locked. And he would unlock it, he would go up there, and then he would lock it behind him. So Rob Pattinson could never get up there. And it was funny. To me, it felt like they viewed the light as a woman, and only one of them could have her. And because, like, when Rob Pattinson was like, we're supposed to take turns, Willem Dafoe, like,
immediately
it was
shot
almost,
that down.
it was, not only did he shoot it down, but he reacted in such a way that you'd think he was talking about the guy's wife.
Yeah.
You take turns on my wife? Like, he was like,
Yeah.
he was insulted,
Yeah.
enraged even that he would even think of doing that. And he's like, you'll never do it here. You'll be a good light keeper, but you'll do it on some other place. This is me.
Yeah.
This is mine.
Yeah.
That was a very odd thing, that this obsession with getting with this light, and weird stuff was just going on as far as that went. I mean, there's a lot of masturbation in this movie. And like fantasies about strange sexual situations with mermaids and octopuses and
very strange, but compelling. I initially, when we first started watching it, was like, oh no, I'm not going to understand any of this. Like, it took me a bit to kind of adapt to the language.
Yeah, in the beginning it was hard to understand what they were saying.
Yeah, at one point I was like, God damn it, I wish there was like closed captioning on this thing.
Yeah, I had to focus a bit.
Yeah.
But after a while, you
pick it up. Yeah.
Especially William Dafoe.
Yeah.
When he started off, because he's like during one of the first like I guess extended scenes of dialogue was them eating dinner, and it seemed like William Dafoe would always start off dinner with some sort of like sea limerick or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I could barely understand what the hell he was saying. But then I like really tuned in, and eventually I got it. He seriously was like a caricature of the sea captain. Like, sure. Ahab. He even had like a bum leg. I don't know. Was it? He still had his leg.
Yes.
Well, but he kept like, was it just like dead or something, or?
I don't know. I mean, he kind of mentions that it wasn't.
He delivered. That's another thing about William Dafoe, is he was lying constantly. He lied about how he lost. He gave two different stories about how he lost his leg.
Yeah.
He was gaslighting Robert Pattinson a lot. Like, yes. You destroyed the lifeboat. You chased me with this axe. No, we just watched you destroy the lifeboat and chase Robert Pattinson with the axe.
But it's that scene. I'm glad you brought that up, because in that scene originally, like prior to that, there's like a strange thing that happens, and then cuts to like it seems like the morning, because the other thing seemed like it was at night, right? And it cuts to like the daytime, and Rob Pattinson's running to this boat to escape, and he looks like a scared little animal. And then you see like Willem Dafoe's character coming, kind of like that thing from Scream or something, with like an axe, and just start bashing this boat. And then Rob Pattinson runs back into like, I guess, the house. But then there's like, in that moment, there's almost like a role reversal, right? Because all of a sudden, and then that scene where he's kind of gaslighting him, but then like the tables are turned, and then Rob Pattinson assumes like that alpha role. So it was like very, very bizarre, right? I didn't like, it was weird, because it was almost, and at one point I said to you, is Willem Dafoe's character even real?
Yeah, there were points where I was wondering if William Dafoe was like a delusion of Robert Pattinson, but I don't think that was the case. It wasn't like a Fight Club sort of thing. But yeah, it sort of lent itself to that theory just because of the amount of gaslighting, and especially in that particular moment where he's like saying that you're doing the things that I said you're doing.
Right.
And also like the accusations that he made throughout the entire movie about, oh, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. then when he finds the book and there's like listing all of these things that Robert Pattinson did that we never see.
Right.
And then there was like another part.
And it was very negative. It was always negative.
Everything was always negative.
Yeah.
And then there was another part where it almost seemed like William Dafoe is saying that we've been here for a week since the boat didn't come, and
but then he says something completely different.
For Robert Pattinson was for him it felt like a day, and I don't know, there was so much weird stuff.
There was no way of telling what a lapse of time happened.
It was supposed to take place over 4 weeks,
right? Because that's when the next crew was supposed to come.
Yeah, the next crew was supposed to come after
or
4
at least
weeks.
Rob Pattinson was going to be replaced, right? Because it seemed like Willem Dafoe was going to stay. Because when they were having like their last night supper, they had like more of a camaraderie than usual. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to miss you." This, that,
was that the case? Because when they got to the island, they replaced 2 men,
right? But he made it seem like he was staying, that he would be leaving.
Yeah, that was a bit confusing. He made it sound like this was his lighthouse and he was always there.
Right, but that wasn't the case.
To me, it felt like they both arrived on the island together, but maybe I missed.
No, I think they both arrived at the same time. And there's that scene, like in the beginning, where you see the 2 of them, and the other guys. They're coming this way.
Yeah. And
the
then,
other 2 are coming this way.
And then, sort of like, I guess Willem Dafoe goes into the house and Robert Pattinson sort of walks around before he goes into the house.
Right.
And then they go up into the bedroom and he unrolls his bed.
Yeah.
And that's when you notice that William Dafoe has actually been there the entire time peeing.
Right. And he's unfurled his mattress and whatever.
There's a lot of confusion going on in this movie.
But it doesn't detract.
It's not upsetting like continuity errors or something like that. It's just, I think it's meant to be disorienting. I think a lot of this film is designed to be disorienting because they want you to sort of feel that uneasiness, that confusion that lends itself to, I guess, what Robert Pattinson's character is going through. Mm-hmm. And the fact that he freaking just goes bonkers. I mean, they both go insane, to be honest. It's like 2 people who really, they should not be together because they're just feeding each other's insanity.
Yes, for sure.
Anyway, yeah, like I said, it's a bit confusing. It's entertaining, but I could see how people may not like this movie. I don't consider, it says it's a horror movie.
Yeah, it says it's drama, horror, fantasy.
I don't know if it's I would say more psychological than anything. Because like any horrific elements are, I mean, they're clearly delusions. I don't like, there was no, William Dafoe was not in the lighthouse with an octopus. And like that end with the light, like what the hell happened there?
I don't know.
And
he got too close to the light, and it burned him. I don't know. It was
it was very Prometheus-like at the end. I don't know. There's a lot. I'm sure there's a lot of symbolism and heady stuff that some people could analyze this movie and be like.
I mean, I definitely want to. I feel like I definitely want to read some of his interviews and just figure out what was what. But I like the idea of going into this movie blind because we hadn't seen it before today. So
yeah, and I really had no idea what to expect. I mean, I heard the performances were great.
Yeah, and they were.
They were.
Everything about this movie, top to bottom, it was a great script. Even though I felt like there was a lot of ambiguity to it. There was a lot of things that were like nothing I would ever understand. Some of it flew over my head, and that's okay. I wasn't sure if both of them were real people or if one was a figment of the other's imagination. So I had questions about that, and just it was crazy. And then that ending, it's like, how does this even belong in this story?
Yeah, it was bizarre.
Was he Prometheus or was he Tom?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. But it's still, like, I enjoyed it a lot. And I feel like, obviously not right now, but I think I want to sit in this, maybe think about it, definitely read up on it. And at some point, I would like to watch it again. Because I think this is one of those movies where I think you'd have to see it a second time to really
Maybe if you read up more about it and you knew more about it,
right? And
I
then
gotta be honest, I can't see myself watching this movie again just cold. Like unless I know like the inspirations behind these things or why these certain things were done in certain ways, I don't think I will ever figure out.
Oh yeah, I could never figure out what was in Robert Eggers' head.
Yeah, it's there's it feels like something's there, but I don't know what the hell it is. Don't ask.
That's
me.
fair. That's completely fair. That's completely. Like I said, I think I would want to read up on it as much as I could to try to figure out the things and then go back to it and see if I could pick up on those things and then make other associations from the things that I've learned about the film. Again, I really appreciated going into this blindly without any preconceived notions other than hearing that it was a phenomenal movie and that the performances were outstanding, which both counts. It's true. The set pieces were gorgeous. It felt like you were in that time. Yeah. The costuming on this thing was amazing. I didn't for once believe that we weren't in that time period.
Kudos on the excellent facial hair.
Fantastic. For both of them.
For both guys. Yeah.
For both of but in particular to Willem Dafoe. That freaking beard was amazing.
And one of those
crazy
mustaches. Like boxer mustaches. Yeah.
Oh, there was that scene where he's like
they actually
doing
did the old-timey boxer moves.
Yeah, it was really great.
After a potential homoerotic moment.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to I think unpack here, and like really, you could really deep dive on what the significance of certain elements and certain scenes in that movie were. So, yeah, I think a lot of people also, I don't know, I feel like this director is one of those people that you really, really like or you really just don't care for.
I don't know if I've ever seen anything else from him.
I think those are his only two movies, The Witch and this. But even The Witch...
I've never seen The Witch.
You've never seen it? I thought we saw it.
No. I remember I wanted to see it, but you were never in the mood to see it.
I must have seen it when you were at your parents', because I've seen it.
You have? I've never seen it.
Oh.
I wanted to see it, but like I said...
Oh, I'll watch it with you again. I mean, I'll watch it with you.
All right.
Yeah, no, it's really, really good. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. Oh, I thought I watched it with you. That's so weird.
I have never seen it.
Interesting. Okay, well, yeah, I mean, this movie I really, really liked. I think the script was strong. The cinematography on this was beautiful. And it's filmed in black and white, which also adds something to it. It's interesting, obviously, now in the year 2021 that everything is so stylized and whatever, but there was something about this film, it looked like it was in that moment in time, right? Everything about this film felt authentic.
I think also another thing that like really made it feel like in that time was the aspect ratio.
Yes.
It was square.
Yes.
The whole film was in a square box.
Yes. Yeah.
Usually
yes, absolutely.
Like big widescreen things. This looked like the aspect ratio that you would see in sort of like a student movie or an old-time film where they don't have the big widescreen Panaflex, whatever the hell, like Buster Keaton or some sort of silent movie.
Yeah. And it funny that you said silent movie, because in the beginning, I mean, there's sound, obviously, but no one's saying anything. And for a while there, I wondered, I was like, oh, is this going to be one of those things where there's hardly any dialogue? It's mostly just story through action. I mean, that wasn't the case, obviously, but it felt like that, too. I don't know if it was just the positioning of the shots. Like, in the beginning, like, I think you mentioned the shot where the two of them are facing the camera. And you're seeing their faces, and then all of a sudden Willem Dafoe walks off and I guess into the house.
Yeah.
So like that shot looked very like silent movies, 1920s kind of framing, and I think that's why in my mind I figured it was in that time frame.
I felt that way when Robert Pattinson walks into the house, and there's a couple of shots of him just sort of like looking up. And it's like since it's square, it looks like an old photograph.
Right.
And like, yeah, it's very quiet. So I think the first, I honestly believe the first sound you hear come from any of them is William Dafoe farting.
Yes.
That's the first noise you hear. They don't even say.
Well, him peeing as well,
They don't even say hello.
Right. Right. I don't think they talk until dinner.
Yeah, they don't talk until dinner. Like as soon as Robert Pattinson sits down, Willem Dafoe leaves
the room. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And then he starts doing chores or something. I don't remember. But then they have dinner. It wasn't immediate. I feel like there was something in between there. But still, just top to bottom. And I think another to backtrack, the black and white. There's something about black and white movies that I don't know. There's something just really pretty.
Was it black and white throughout?
Yeah. What made you think it wasn't?
I could swear you could see the color of Pattinson's eyes.
I didn't see that.
Maybe I was just my colors for me is weird.
Sure. No, it was totally in black and white, but some of it did look more sharper than others. I mean, there was the scene. Was it the scene with the mermaid? Felt like it might have been color tinged. I don't know. I mean, there was so much going on that it was hard to kind of like remember in my mind, like, oh, I should have taken a notepad and been like, so that I could discuss this movie and hit my points. But yeah, and even the ending seemed a little. It felt like it had some sort of tinge to it, but yeah, I couldn't tell you for sure. But all in all, a really, really interesting movie to look at, to watch, to take in, to try to decipher, I guess. This is an excellent movie experience, at least for me. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would give this an 8.5, I think. Between the performances, again, the art direction, the set designing, the costuming, the editing, the sound. Sound, I think, also plays an important thing in this movie. The script, the acting. Yeah, I would give this an 8.5. You're going to go lower? You can.
Yeah, I think I got to mark it down lower. Just like I said, I was entertained throughout, but I was also confused throughout most of this movie, and I could see. I don't know. It just that just lends itself to just not being satisfied overall. I enjoyed the performances. The story was interesting but confusing. It was interesting, confusing. I think it was just trying to be a little bit too heady, too artsy, maybe, and I don't know. I don't
know if it was trying to be. I think it was trying to tell a story, but without giving you all the pieces. I think there's definitely a thing about insanity. I think there's definitely a thing about facing your demons, and maybe when we run from our past, how it ultimately catches up with us. I think there's something about masculinity here. I think there's something about people and their brokenness. I think there's something about the way men in particular interact with each other, and how what am I trying to say? Like positions of power, maybe. Like definitely in many scenes you see William Dafoe's character kind of throw it in Pattinson's face, like, I'm the boss, kind of, and this is if I tell you to swab these floors, you're gonna do it, and you're gonna
like
do
it because I tell you you're gonna like it.
Yes, exactly. Like that scene too, right?
And then
that was very volatile.
And at the end, it's just like bark.
That was nuts. I was like, what is going on?
It's just like woof, woof, woof.
But that was the thing. That was the thing, though, right? Because, like, in that previous scene, like, Defoe's character is the crazy one with the axe, and then by the end of that sequence, he's being led by a rope by Pattinson on all fours. Like, what?
I don't know. It was overwhelming as far as just things that I didn't quite get. I understand. I understand what you're saying. You know, they're trying to show masculinity and descents into madness and stuff like that, but it just didn't click with me like that.
Okay. That's
it was
fair enough.
like
everybody brings their own experiences and interpretations to stuff.
Yeah, I think it wanted more from me than I was willing to give it.
Well, I also think that, again, to what I was saying is that I think it wanted to tell a story, but without giving you all of the pieces. I think that's another thing about Eggers' movies, because even in The Witch.
Well, I don't tell me anything about The Witch.
Sorry.
Like, I got the pieces. I understood all the pieces. I picked up the fact that there was the incident in Robin Carrick,
previous job,
Pattinson's past. Mm-hmm. When he was described, even before that, even before more concrete details of that show up, just in the way that Pattinson described his previous life, you could tell that something was up. Mm-hmm. That he's like, oh, I just like making fresh starts.
Right.
No, that's basically just a big red flag that says you're basically on the run. You screw up a lot. You've done something
horribly wrong.
Maybe at least once, maybe multiple times.
Sure.
That was fairly obvious to me. But then it almost felt like they were. You go on this path of like people breaking down psychologically. But then you start adding into this that there may be some kind of superstitious stuff going on that may actually have a basis in reality based upon the results that happened. Don't kill a gull. It's souls of dead sailors and whatever. And as soon as he does it, bad shit happens.
Stuff happens, right? And
then so now it's like, I guess he's not completely crazy. Maybe there's some sort of supernatural mumbo jumbo going on. Also, the whole thing with the Little Mermaid statue, and then the mermaid.
Yeah.
And
then Defoe becomes the mermaid, or a squid, or something. Yeah. I don't know.
No, he was Poseidon.
Oh, is that what he was? Okay.
He was screaming about Poseidon, all his curses. Remember when they have that first big fight, and he just suddenly stands up and he's like,
yeah.
That was great, that scene. Yeah. He was rambling on like right out of Shakespeare with just the briny deep and
it was very thorough.
It was like a proper sea captain's curse because Robert Pattinson wouldn't admit to liking his lobster. You like my lobster, don't you?
That was nuts.
That was nuts. That was like scenes like that. That's why I said I was entertained.
Yeah.
Basically, I was along for this ride. I was entertained during this ride, but I still felt uncomfortable and confused and a bit unsatisfied when the ride was over.
Aw, all right. Fair enough. I completely understand what you're saying.
Like I said, it's got excellent performances. It looks beautiful. Like I said,
it's gorgeous.
Very interesting how the aspect ratio of the film, how they did that and used that to just give it this sort of like even more of a vintage look to it.
And there was something also about the way, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, about the way it was filmed. I've been trying to be good about that. Something about the way it was filmed lended itself, is that even a word? Lent itself more to this sense of isolation. Because you have it's not a big island, no. But it's only these two guys on it. Yeah. And it's like the descent into madness happens super quick. I mean, like I said, the first couple of weeks when they're together, everything is somewhat okay. But then when Pattinson is supposed to leave and they're waiting on that cliff or whatever for a boat to show up, and it doesn't because of the crazy weather, and then soon after it's like we're off to the races, and it just goes like from 0 to 90 as far as like the bananas, right? I mean, they really just full throttle into that sense of crazy.
And you know what? You mentioned that it's a small island. Maybe that also goes into the whole narrow screen because it's very claustrophobic.
And I think that's a great word.
And also like the isolation and the fact that there are big black bars on either side of the screen throughout the entire movie. So the film itself looks like it's by itself in this little thing. Right.
And I think that's the feeling that they feel there. They're even though they have like a companion but it's still it's claustrophobic.
This is like he's really using everything to convey this sense, to basically just bore this sense of isolation, claustrophobia, and impending madness into you. He does an excellent job as far as that goes.
Yeah. And the other thing that I want to say about this movie, I felt not like other films that we've watched recently, like Coherence was one where I felt very unsettled, but this felt very unsettling too.
Because you just don't know what's going to happen.
Because you just don't know what's going to happen. Exactly. That's what I was going to say. But it was different than Coherence, right? Like that movie I found very unsettling. But this one was even more unsettling to me, only because you now have the story goes in a very deranged direction, right? And I think that
well, you know what, that's the thing that for me at the core of the story, it isn't strange. It's two guys go to an island and they eventually go insane and result. But it's just how we get from point A to point B, the way this is done, where we're along the ride with Pattinson. He's our main POV character here.
Sure, yeah.
His point of view is so disorienting, and not only is it disorienting, but we're constantly told by the other character, no, it didn't happen like that. You did this, you did that, and all we're seeing is Pattinson's point of view, and we're like, what is this guy freaking talking about? Right. And then Pattinson's point of view... But it could be that Willem Dafoe's right. It could be. We don't know because Pattinson, he's seeing freaking mermaids, and suddenly
he's not a reliable storyteller.
He's not a exactly. He's an unreliable storyteller, and he's exhausted. I mean, he's doing everything. Just he's carting wheelbarrows of coal up hills. Yeah. He has to climb to the top of a cliff to throw chamber pots off a cliff that blow back into his face.
That was disgusting.
He's digging holes and digging up old food. He has to clean the most disgusting water. Birds are attacking him for no reason. Like those birds were assholes.
Yeah, they were.
And then like there'll be points where he'll just suddenly he's just waking up, or he's like laying on the ground or something, or smelling a bottle of liquor, stalking his way up and seeing things that he's not seeing these things. Yeah. And it's just like this trip from point A to point B, which normally would be told in a more direct way and a streamlined way. It's really just crazy, and it's disorienting. Mm-hmm. And I could appreciate that, but it's not something that I
purposely look for in movies.
Not something it's just so, like, I think maybe it was like just too disorienting for me, and I like I said, I could appreciate it. I appreciate the craft that was shown here. Yeah. But it's not for me. It's like some people like roller coasters and some people don't.
This is definitely a roller coaster because you just don't know what's around the bend.
Yeah. So if I were to give this a number, I would probably keep it in like the 7 range.
Okay.
Just because I did like it, I was entertained, and the performances are great, but it was just a little too jarring for me, it's hard to even put into words. Like I said, the trip is just so disorienting.
But even with that, if somebody said to you, "Hey, would you recommend this movie?"
I would recommend it because this is just me, and your mileage may vary. You may love this roller coaster ride.
But I I think it bears witnessing. I think this is the
I-
type
yeah.
of film
I
that,
think you should
if you
watch it.
haven't seen it, I think, and if you like, let's put it this way: if you haven't seen it, and if you've seen The Witch, you kind of know what to expect from a Robert Eggers project. If you love cinema, if you love storytelling, this might be something you might want to watch. Only because of all these things that are in it. There's a very interesting story. It's great fodder for conversation because you can pick at it and be like, okay, well, I thought this meant this and this that meant that. A person who loves the art of cinema, there's tons of stuff in here for you. Tons. From the cinematography to the editing to the sound mixing to the costuming. This is an absolute feast for the eyes. This movie is gorgeous. Gorgeous. If you want to see, if you're a fan of Rob Pattinson or Willem Dafoe, it absolutely demands that you watch it because these two put in such phenomenal work into this film, into these characters that they bring to life. At no point in this movie did I fall asleep. Did I think about what I needed to do later? Did I look at my phone?
Yeah, no, I was engrossed in this
I
one
was
too, to the point where I actually
engrossed.
was leaning forward by the
Yes, there were points where I sat forward to kind of pay more attention, and it was just I really liked it, and I think again I didn't understand everything, and I don't think you're supposed to, but it was enough for me that I would highly recommend this film, and I think again. I don't think the filmmaker's intention is to spoon feed you stuff. I think I want to do the research on my own about this movie, sit with it, digest it, think about it, and then at some point in the future watch it again with clearer eyes and more of an understanding. Because I think this is one of those films that you would get more out of the second time that you watch it.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's it from us. And we both do still recommend it.
Yeah.
And we will speak with y'all very, very soon.
Good night.
Good night.